You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast. After all these years, still the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Inside the Black and Gold. I'm Brennan YSL.
Sam Jane.
And Michael Howes.
And this week we have on a Terps lacrosse player. Guys, winter sports isn't looking so hot, so we wanted to fast forward it to the springs. Welcome on Braden Erksa to the show.
Before we get back to the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst to the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey Dog to the DMV, featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, served with handmade toppings, including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And don't miss their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegan dogs as well as gluten-free buns. Shout out gluten-free buns, because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people a hot dog is a sandwich. All right, now here is more Under the Shell.
With the men's lacrosse season starting up this weekend, we are pleased to be joined by senior Braden Erksa. Braden, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
We appreciate you. Obviously, kind of a weird start to the season so far. First game gets delayed. Your upcoming game against Loyola kind of gets put inside. What's the energy? What are the vibes like, with maybe a start to the season that you guys didn't quite expect just because of the weather?
I think that, it's just more time for us to get better. I think the whole goal of this season is just to be the best team we can be. And I think that, regardless if we're playing on Saturdays or not, I think everyone on our team kind of has a mentality of just show up every day and just be the best version of yourself, whether that's, whether you're playing on Saturdays or not. Everyone's just trying to be the best version of themselves. So I think that's like kind of the main focus, and that's kind of like the vibe going into this season for our team is, just being the best group we can be, because we all believe that we have everything we need to accomplish our goals in our locker room. So I think that was kind of like the biggest thing for us, regardless of whether or not we're playing.
You've been such a leader offensively the past 3 seasons, I think, especially last year. What have you done during the offseason in the past, 7 months to improve your game to have that senior season that you want?
I think for me, the biggest thing was playing like an older guy, honestly. I feel like in the past I've had a lot of turnovers and things that like are just not like are things that just kind of younger players do. And I think that, just trying to let the game come to me as much as possible in this season has been big, and just kind of playing wherever the team needs me, really. We got a lot of talented guys on this team this year. So for me, my biggest focus was just to, kind of fit in wherever I needed to be, and kind of execute whatever job that our team needed for the year.
Speaking of some of those things you guys are going to need on the offensive side, obviously Tillman and you guys brought in 2 transfers, Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons, both from Yale, who had such good years offensively last year and throughout their careers. What have you seen from both of them, and how excited are you to kind of get on the field and showcase what this offense is going to have to offer?
I think both of them bring something that, we really need and what we really appreciate. I think that they're both like terrific people who have kind of, most importantly, embraced what we do here and embraced the culture that we've, kind of strived to grow since Tillman's been here. I think that's kind of like the biggest thing for transfers, is to just buy into what we're doing here. And I know it's kind of hard coming from a place you've gone for 4 other years, but I think they've done a great job, and I'm super excited to play with them.
What would you say specifically buying into that be the best culture or the Maryland lacrosse culture looks like from your eyes, from a leader on the team?
From my eyes, it's just showing up every day. Like I said earlier, it's kind of just showing up every day, regardless of what your role is, and executing your role to the highest of your ability, and to not only accept your role, but like in a way kind of reject it and try to like push yourself beyond what you think you can do every day. And I think that if you do that day in and day out, then that's kind of what be the best means. I mean, you're going to turn into a person that you probably won't recognize in 4 years coming in as a freshman. So I think that that's like the most important thing, and that's like the buy-in, and it's just like withholding that standard. So I think like that's the biggest thing for us, is just kind of being the best person, player, and an individual you can be on a daily basis.
To have the opportunity to play this tough of a schedule early, you guys are used to playing top opponents pretty early on in the season, but this year in particular feels like it's really tough. Just how can you tell us how difficult that is at first? Just like as you're trying to gel, to have to try to gel against some of the other best teams in the country, and what are some of the pros and cons of it from your perspective as a player?
I honestly think it's an honor to play such great teams week in and week out. I think it doesn't really give you room to breathe, which is in reality is kind of like a good thing in my opinion. I think that constantly, having to face adversity and playing tough opponents week in and week out is something that not every team does, but I'm really like grateful that we do it because I think that's kind of contributed to our success later in the season is just being able to be a battle tested team who's kind of seen a bunch of scenarios and done a bunch of things as well as it kind of like it's like kind of like a trial by fire in a way where like if you don't like every team's so good on our schedule that like if you don't really perform then you have the ability to lose. So I think that that's kind of like the biggest thing is I think it's a kind of like a trial by fire in a way, and I'm really grateful for that.
What's the game that you're most looking forward to in the non-con this year, or conference play too?
Honestly, this is gonna sound crazy, but I'm just trying to live in the moment like every day. It's my last year, so I'm just kind of trying to live it day by day and just kind of take every day for what it is, and that's kind of my whole mentality. To answer your question, I'm not really looking to forward to one game in particular. I'm just looking for this season, forward to the season, and each game is its own day, and I'm looking forward to each one of those.
Brandon, you got a future in PR with that answer. I respect it.
You know, you committed to Maryland in October of 2019. So obviously living in the moment is one thing, but when you're ever like walking around campus or some of your games playing at CQ or just, you know, actually being at Maryland, do you have any moments where you look back and like, I made the decision to come to Maryland so long ago, and I'm sure you're going to feel that a ton on kind of your final ride to the team. But do you have some of those moments just being like, I cannot believe I made the decision so long ago and I'm now here?
Um, Kinda. I mean, for me, it's kind of like this experience has kind of just flown by. Um, Always like even like throughout high school sports and like sports in general, you always hear like you don't get this time back. Like time flies by. Like it kind of just you blink and it's over, and that's kind of going through the process and like committing here. And then now like obviously experiencing it for 4 years, like I still remember the first day I moved onto campus. So it's kind of a surreal moment walking around campus knowing that it's your last, go. Because I remember the days I just moved into my apartment freshman year and I was like, wow, it's kind of flown by, and you don't really understand it until it's actually there.
Can you tell us about your relationship with Tillman? You've now been around for a little bit. You probably know who he is. Can we hear any insight into kind of the personality of who he is? Because he doesn't show a ton in interviews and stuff like that. And I think that we've heard from players he's got a pretty fun, unique personality.
Yeah, Tills is a great guy. I mean, he he's honestly one of the best coaches I've had, not only from like a coaching standpoint, but from a set you up for life standpoint. I think that what he teaches every day might in the moment seem like this is kind of absurd, like this is kind of crazy, like why is he making me do this? But when you get in the real world, like I think a lot of the things he teaches you hear from freshman year all the way till you're a senior is very important. I think it kind of sets you apart, not only here, not only us as a team, not only us as individuals, but as like citizens within like the when you leave this place, when you graduate, like as a worker, or like even like if you have like a family, like things like that. Like I think like a lot of the lessons he teaches you here can go beyond lacrosse and beyond this place, and I think that's like kind of what really makes him special. And he throws a lot of jokes around sometimes, so I think those are kind of funny. But other than that, I mean, I think he's a
What are,
great dude.
when you say like stories that his coaches like Kurt Signetti, for example. I don't know how often you follow college football. You hear the same thing. Like guys are like, "Yeah, man, we'll be doing a drill," or like he'll be teaching us, giving us a speech, and it's like, well, "What are you talking about?" But then, like as you get older, as you get kind of more mature, you start to understand like the vision that they're going through it with. Do you have a good example of that kind of you were like, you know, whatever. Like I don't really understand what he's talking about. But then as you kind of got to know him more, got to know the program more, you really picked up on what the message was.
I mean, there's a lot. There's honestly a ton. But one thing that I kind of learned, so I had an internship this summer, and something that kind of really stuck out to me was, just simple things like honestly, like being early to things. Like I was always early and I was always, the first one in the office, whatever that means. And I think that kind of carried a lot of weight at the end of my internship. And that's kind of something Tillman's kind of always instilled in us. And I've like always been like, why do I have to show up an hour early for 7 a.m. practice? Like this doesn't make sense sometimes. Um, but I think like things like that and like things like just like working hard, honestly, like genuinely just working hard and like outworking the people next to you. I think that like kind of goes super far. And like in the moment it sucks, in the moment it's super hard, in the moment you're like, why is he making us do this? Like, can we not just have like kind of like the day off in a sense? But like I think like those things like that have like definitely, you know, just helped me like not only in lacrosse, but like also in like the corporate world. So I think like things like that are just like the biggest thing that kind of stick out to me.
Absolutely. What was your internship this summer?
So I worked on the Hill this summer. I worked for a congressman. His name's Tom Emmer. I was an intern in his office. It was a great experience. Yeah.
Do you want to get into
Very cool.
politics?
Yeah.
What's
I
Braden
mean,
Erksa's
that'd
future
be cool.
after lacrosse? We got a state senator on our hands or something like that?
No, I don't know about all that, but yeah, I mean, that's something I had a great experience doing. I wouldn't say I'm the most political person like before the internship, but I think like seeing how the government works is really, really interesting. And, the people up there are just so great. So I think that like it was just a really cool experience and it's something I want to explore in the future.
I mean, that's obviously one of the benefits of coming to Maryland, right? You're so close to DC, so close to be able to get down to Capitol Hill. Before we let you go, the biggest thing looming over this team is the past 2 years losing the national championship game. How much is that kind of talked about in the locker room with the team, and is it a big motivating factor at this point? And what lessons did you learn from the past 2 years to say, hey, obviously we made the national championship, but we can't let this happen again because obviously you guys want to win?
That's a loaded question. I don't really think that the last 2 years are kind of really talked about every day. I think this is a new group with its own challenges. And I think that, obviously you remember those scars and you kind of wear them as motivation, like everyone kind of does, whether it's sports or not. But I really just think that this team is super focused on just going day by day, honestly. And it sounds like super corny and cheesy, but like it's real. I think, you know, the end goal of every team in the country is to win a national championship, obviously, and only one team can do that. So I think like the biggest thing that I've kind of learned over the last 2 years is that it's really hard. Like it's really, really hard. And no matter like how good your whole season is or anything, like anything can happen in that last game. And I think that, you can't really worry about the result. You kind of have to worry about the process. And I think that if you just kind of worry about the process and worry about coming in every day and doing your job, I think that things will kind of take care of themselves. And I think that that's what this team specifically has done a really good job of just coming in and preparing every day like it's a game. And through that, I mean, you obviously have your ups and downs, but I think that, like I said, it's just coming in, doing your job every day. And I think trusting in the process, it kind of sounds so corny, like saying it honestly, but I think that's like the truth. Like I think if you just trust in the process and every day you come in and give your best, I think things will kind of take care of themselves.
If you had to say, what's the one difference between this team and the previous two that would give you more confidence you guys can get over the hump?
I think every team I've been on has been super hungry, but I don't know. There's something different about this year. I can't really put my finger on it, I guess, but I don't know. I think it's just also, going out with like all the guys you came in with is something special, and I think it might be a little bit extra motivation for this group. I don't really know, to be honest, though. I can't really put a finger on it.
Very fair. Well, we'll let the play on the field do the talking in that sense. Well, Braden, thank you so much for joining us for our men's lacrosse preview, and we look forward to watching the season.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Maryland men's lacrosse season opener is Saturday, which means despite the snow,
Spring sports are getting closer and closer. We're thrilled to have on Braden to talk a little bit about the upcoming year and what he's expecting from John Tillman's team, who figures to factor in pretty highly in the national race. We'll talk about their season preview later. But guys, let's quickly rip through what's been going on in the winter sport world. It continues to be a down season for both the basketball teams. Definitely much worse for the men's basketball squad than the women's basketball squad. Maryland continues to falter in Big Ten play. This time they suffered a 30-point defeat to Purdue. It's one of the worst program losses in history. You really just, it's tough to find positives from this season. It really is.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I think the biggest thing, it's the same with a lot of the games this year, maybe with the exception of the Michigan game, just weren't competitive from the tip. When you start the game down, and it's a theme we saw from the Georgetown game. You think by this point, February, we're still talking about the Georgetown game, similar themes, not getting out to quick enough starts. If Maryland goes out in that game and has a little bit of a lead, it's interesting for a half or so. Turnout was pretty good, I think, considering where this program and team is at during this moment in time. But Andre Mills played well, but as we said last week, it's like it's tough. I know post game they're talking about foundational February. They're not favored to win a game on Ken Palm until March. These are not things I think we necessarily would have been talking about. We didn't think we'd be talking about these things 3 months ago. So just a shocker. Mike, anything stood out to you from the Purdue game?
Well, it's been the season in general. I mean, I'm not shocked. It feels like every week we've had, how could it get worse than this? Now you got the worst program loss in the Xfinity Center in your program history. That is not a good start for Buzz Williams, and it's not a good start for him and this fan base. I mean, this is a fan base in Maryland that wants success. They want wins. They've won a national title this century. So they expect that, and to have that turnout and the way it's been going his first year, it's not a great start for him. There's a thing with the radio show. The last time he hosted his radio show was December 9th. That was the last time he had his live radio show. And I mean, Loxley's going out there every single week when he's blowing it in the fourth. So it's a rough start for Buzz.
Mike, it's going to be a hell of a story next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, I agree, Mike. I mean, the lack of accountability, it feels like, talking about things like we're not playing for wins and losses at this point. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's not even.
Who is buying a ticket to a basketball game to see a tie? I mean...
That, but it's just also like, Darius Adams saying, we're not really focused on the outcome. We're focused on us getting better every single day, and that's going to make the outcome different. Obviously, there's frustration just because we're losing, but I don't think it's going to be a big thing. And then Buzz saying, if we get on the roller coaster of only outcome-based resulting, it's going to be a bad ride. Like, what are we doing here?
Those are fine things to say if you're winning by 30.
He's talking about the process of how this team can grow.
Oh my gosh.
The season is over at this point, and in the new world of college athletics, half of them are going to be gone next year. So let's stop stop talking like this.
To be fair, if I told you that Pharrell Payne was going to miss pretty much all the Big Ten games, and that Miles Rice was, going to have the stat line he's going to have, you would have said this team was going to win 3 Big Ten games, whatever, 2 big, right? From the perspective of before the season, without knowing the expectations, if I read you how everybody's playing, you would have easily predicted this. So in that sense, what we're seeing isn't totally shocking.
Right? I don't know if I would have predicted this, and shout out to our friend Ben Geffner. Maryland's 30-point loss to Purdue, as Mike said, was the worst in Xfinity Center, but it's the first time since the Players Era tournament, so twice this season, Maryland has lost back-to-back games by 30-plus points. You know the last time that happened before this year, Brendan? Just once, the last time they lost back-to-back games by 30
It was when Wade was coaching, that 1 year after Len Bias. When was it?
Try 1944.
They probably lost to who? I don't even know.
Probably the Sisters of Marion Poor. I don't know. Something. Almost 80 years since that last happened. I don't think that I would have ever expected it to get this bad. I think that there's one thing to say about this team losing, and I think you're right, B. If you told me Pharrell Payne, who we all signaled as like this guy's gonna have to carry them, if he was gonna miss the majority of the season, then things would have got bad. But I mean, it's gotten to a point where it's like there's no excuse for how ugly it looks. And that's really just my kind of where I stand on it. Like if they were losing, that's one thing, but they're not competitive in like any of these games right now.
It actually, well, let me ask you this, guys. What do you think if you had to pick one or the other? Is the bigger issue the offense or the defense? I think it's a tough question, actually.
Yeah. Can I say both? I mean, I can say both, I guess.
Special teams. You could say special teams.
Yeah, I feel like the two lead into the other, right? I think if I had to probably guess, I would say the defense. I mean, in their last, in 4 out of their last 5 games, they've allowed almost 90 points. Like they've allowed 85 plus. The only one not being against Penn State. But then you look at it on the flip side, and in those, they've eclipsed 75 points twice in the new year. Like that's not great either,
No, it's not. KenPom has the offensive rating at 145 and the defensive rating at 135. So from that measure, offense would be worse. I would have said the defense is the thing. If you could, even if you gave this team a top 10 KenPom defense, like they're not doing anything special. It's just kind of that season,
I want to ask you guys, I've heard this from a couple people. They're like, well, this year is this bad. Imagine what next year is going to be like. What is your concern level for next season? Year 2 with Buzz Williams?
0, maybe 1.
Okay.
It's just like hard to know because they obviously have a lot of talent coming in. The transfer portal exists. I don't think you can ever be that concerned going into the next year.
Oh, I'm definitely much higher than that. I'll say like a 6.
A 6, okay.
Yeah, I think that this year has just been so utterly abysmal that like I don't think you can legitimately say like there's no concerns. Yes, Brendan is right. You can remake the roster. Yes, there's a lot of talent coming in. But what has Buzz done, this season that's given you any confidence he can manage the transfer portal well enough?
Do you have any confidence he can?
I mean, I guess I have some confidence the guy's shown he can win, but I wouldn't say. I mean, even when he was at Texas A&M, it's not like they were bringing in such high-level portal players,
Yeah.
Like the guy who really grew under him was Wade Taylor, and he was a 4-year guy. I don't think there's. I mean, Darius Adams maybe. I don't know. Like I don't think I feel so confident that like next year they're going to walk in and they're a top tournament team. The question I have is like, what if Maryland's a fringe tournament team next year? Is Buzz on the like? Is it? Where are you at with him?
If he does not make the tournament next year, he's absolutely on the hot seat. That's unacceptable here. It's unacceptable. He should be having a little bit of a simmer after this season anyways. So if that happens next year, it is hot.
I'll say I think the most depressing thing has been Texas A&M is the first team. They're leading the SEC right now in men's basketball. That to me is just kind of unbelievable. And, it makes you question a lot of things about what was going on at Texas A&M for men's basketball.
And I hear what you're saying. It does feel like A&M, also Villanova, if you want to throw that in, that's embarrassing. The most embarrassing thing for me
George Mason, Sam.
Yeah, Tony Skins got them boys rolling. The most embarrassing thing for me is Maryland has more double-digit losses than they do wins.
I mean, they haven't really been close in any Big Ten game except for the one they won.
And they have, I think it's 11 or 12 double-digit losses. They have, 13 total on the year? So they've lost...
They have 13 losses, yeah.
They're only single...
Would have been UVA, right?
Yeah, single-digit loss was against UVA.
And that was a weird basketball game. UVA could not score for most of the first half. Literally could not score.
Yeah. That's insane.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, I think that just where we're at right now is like this team is so drought of like talent, and I think that while this pod we're not like one to super overreact. I think as you could tell, like everyone isn't like pushing the complete panic button yet. I think there's now an immense amount of pressure on Buzz to deliver next year. This can't just be like, oh, this team's showing promise, Baba looks good. Like, this has to be a legitimate top half of the Big Ten team, at
top
least for
third, fourth.
Top third or fourth, I agree, for me to feel like good moving forward. And that leads me to my next question as we pivot off of men's basketball really quick. Has there ever been more pressure on the two most prominent coaches at the University of Maryland than there will be entering next season?
I'm not sure, honestly, on that one.
Like, you're looking at two coaches.
No.
You're looking at two coaches who have to win, essentially, in order to, like, A, either keep their job or B, like, feel secure in their job moving forward. Jim Smith is going to have
that's super interesting, Sam. I had not thought about that.
A big year on his hands next year if things go well and if things go poorly.
It's super interesting. While we're on the men's basketball news talking about coaching, Mike, your boy got a job, man. Turgeon coaching at Kansas City? What were your instant reactions to that?
Turge going on a pod before ours? What are we doing?
I know,
here?
Mike.
What are we doing?
Instant reaction is good for him. It's back close to home. He can be near his family. He's back in the game doing what he loves. He had a good tenure here at Maryland. I think Maryland fans should look back on his tenure with a smile, considering the run that we've had since he's been gone.
I will say maybe, but I think that now that he's got another job, I think it's, as you said, it's a really good job for him. I think the way he left Maryland, I mean, Kansas City's a very weird job to take in general, just because they've been awful forever. But I think that for him going to a smaller market where he knows he's not going to kind of have the, fire down his neck that he had at Maryland will make his job easier. I mean, that team, they're not, like, if they make it to the NCAA tournament, that's obviously a huge success for that program. The expectations are in a very different spot, and he can get back to trying to coach basketball, which is good. But that was the big news from men's basketball. Let's pop over to women's basketball. Not a strong week for them. They lost to Washington and Oregon, both in the Xfinity Center. Kind of guys in the exact same fashion, very similar fashion. Washington was obviously, they had that double overtime game. Oregon, kind of just a similar recipe. They'll take on MSU Wednesday night. This podcast will come out after that. This team has been on a serious slide. And as I predicted last week, as I said, I didn't think they were going to host. They're now officially outside the top four teams that would host an NCAA tournament. They're ranked 22nd in the country, and a lot of projections have them now at a 5 or 6 seed. After the start of the season, they were all the way up to being projected to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Sam, Mike, what were your takeaways from the last week for women's basketball?
It's just tough when you kind of melt in the fourth quarter and in the Oregon game, outscored by, I think it was 13. And then in the game against Washington, they didn't score a single field goal in the final 3 minutes of that one. So really bad late game execution. As Brendan mentioned, they're on now, a big time skid, 4 losses in a row. Just the lack of perimeter depth, I think, is really hurting them. The 3-point shooting has started to fall off. I think Maryland didn't make a 3-pointer. I want to say the second half. That could be wrong, but they just have really struggled from beyond the arc. They're now below 500 in Big Ten play. This team needs some sort of recipe change. I think they need to get that. They're not going to get any players back, right? None of the people who are missing time are returning, so they need to figure out a way to change their recipe, because right now the way they're playing, like, you're probably looking at a first or second round exit, because it hasn't been good enough up to the standard that we've come to expect with the women's team. And I think the caveat obviously is how injured they are, but at the end of the day, if we're going to sit here and they're not to the same levels at all, but if we're going to sit here and say the men's basketball team has to be better despite the injuries, the same could be applied for the women's squad.
Yeah, I just looked it up. They made 1 3 in the second half against Oregon. I think it was late game execution. Sayla Poffenbarger had free throws, whether she should have been in that position or not, whether you agree with the call that put Maryland in a position against Washington. to hit free throws to win that game. Maryland, I say the Poffenbarger was on the line with 2 free throws to win the game. They had other free throws that would have iced the game earlier on. The Washington game, I was honestly pretty confused on kind of some of the defensive strategy. One of the Washington players, Xavier Sellers, went off for 38 points. They pretty much had no answer for that. And, I think what we saw last year against Alabama in the NCAA tournament, Mir McLean was a great defender in that game and kind of won that game for them in the clutch time, in the double overtime. And then, Brendan never set that matchup up. Mir only played 6 minutes in that game. It's just tough when you're having players, we talked about it last week with the depth. You having all those injuries, you're having, in a double overtime game, you have 5 players, basically 5 players playing 40 plus minutes. Jordan goes on and played 48 minutes in that game. It just, if certain players aren't executing at the end of the game, you got to think, okay, who else do I turn to here? And even if you're doing defensive subs, like, you got to make that change. You cannot let someone who's scored 38 points keep hitting shots against you in clutch time. You got to have an answer for that.
You should not be having a player playing 48 minutes in a regular season game too. When you cannot do that. But
again, who else is she going to play? I mean,
that's the issue, and it's crazy because in the preseason, all I was hearing about was how deep this team was. That it was one of the deepest Brenda teams, and now it's just all dwindled away. It's tough. They're still going to make the NCAA tournament. They could be competitive and make a Sweet 16, but I don't think the Final Four potential that this team had is really going to get met this season.
Yeah, I think we talked about last week. Like that just kind of seems like the destiny for this team is Sweet 16. It would be the peak, and I think as we said it, like injuries or not, it's just disappointing. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 remaining games for the Big Ten play. I cannot believe it's gone by that quickly. They've played 3 more ranked opponents. They'll play Michigan State on Wednesday, as I mentioned, then Ohio State, and then Michigan to end their season with some non-ranked home games in the middle of that. With 7 games to go, I think finishing the Big Ten play with a winning record, trying to get one more ranked win would be the goal. But I think realistically, they're probably going to finish out from here either 4-3 or 3-4, which, having a losing record in the Big Ten play was not something I think anybody would have expected going into this year.
Right. It's definitely disappointing. Another disappointing thing I saw on Twitter today, Maryland football landed at number 17 in CBS Sports Big Ten power rankings for next season.
I saw 17. I was like, 17 in the country? I was like, no way.
Yeah,
17th in the Big Ten. Hey, Indiana was ranked 17th, and then they won an NCAA. They won the national championship. So,
yeah.
What do the pundits really know? That's what Loxley's saying in the locker room. He actually put up a new sign, I heard, instead of like to leave your expensive stuff outside. He put, we're ranked 17th. Indiana was once ranked 17th, and they won the whole thing.
Get ready, Bentleys. National championships coming to College Park. Brennan Weissel said it first.
All right, football schedule got released. Mike, what are your thoughts? I gave some of my thoughts last week. Now we know the order in which they're going to lose games, but what are your thoughts about their record prediction?
5-7, 3-6 in the Big Ten. I think they're going to start out 2-0. They're going to lose to Virginia Tech in College Park, and then the chalk is going to happen again. But what's going to happen is they're going to win against UCLA. They're going to lose against Nebraska, at Ohio State.
They're going to
beat Rutgers. They're going to lose versus Illinois at home. They're going to win at Purdue, lose at Wisconsin, lose at USC, and then lose at Penn State. So that's a 3-game losing streak to end the season. They're also 5-4 before that losing streak starts. So think about the narrative.
Yeah, they'll probably make a bowl game for academic whatever.
Yeah.
For the school's academic ranking.
We don't have to go by game right now. We can wait.
I think they have another losing season in conference, that's all I'll say. And I don't think they're going to be undefeated in non-con play.
But Maryland through the past 6 years has been the best non-conference team in the country. They've won something like 18 straight non-conference games, Mike. Shouldn't that give you a little confidence that this team can make a bowl game?
No.
Yeah, no, I mean...
They're going to lose to either UConn or Virginia Tech.
I will say that Virginia Tech game, assuming Maryland's 2-0, we'll have some buzz behind it.
Yeah.
That'll be a game. Like that'll be like the, oh my God, are we back?
Yeah.
If Maryland wins that game, that's an are we back moment.
And then they got
they could because it's out of conference.
But then they got UCLA at home after that. Then you got 2-game road trip, 2-game homestand, Purdue, home against Wisconsin. This kind of flip-flop between USC, home against Penn State. It's just hard to look at that Big Ten schedule and see a lot of wins. It's just hard. It's just hard.
Also, Virginia Tech basically plays Maryland the first game of the season. They play VMI, Old Dominion, and Maryland. So Maryland's their first real game. I think the Nebraska-Ohio State is really tough back-to-back on the road. Yeah. Really tough.
Yeah.
Nebraska's far away. You got to come back to Maryland probably for a couple days and then go back to Ohio State. A terribly difficult place to play. That's not really a morale-boosting type of game. Illinois is a scheduling loss, even though it's at home. It comes off the bye week. Yeah, I mean, it's not a horrible schedule. They hypothetically, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, they could win those 4 games. It probably won't happen, but that is set up in a way that it's like they could get some momentum rolling in November like they haven't in the past, but nothing has given me confidence from Lox's tenure that would say they're going to do that in November, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I'm just really excited for that Virginia Tech game. I think that
game's aura.
It's going to be very hyped up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That game might be sold out.
Yeah. But I don't know about this team.
I wonder if VT will be ranked at that point. Because then it's like they're a 24th ranked team that could be fraudulent. I mean, that could be a huge game.
To start the season?
VT? I mean, if they're playing, they don't play a real game. So if they're not ranked to start the season, they're not going to be ranked to play. They probably will be ranked to start the season, right?
Yeah. James Franklin effect.
Yeah. It's the name. It's literally the fact that he's...
If Maryland goes 3-0 and they beat Virginia Tech, is Maryland ranked going into that UCLA game at home? Could they be ranked?
You know what's funny is the past Maryland football season, they were what? 3 plays away from being 7-0?
Yeah. It could happen.
I mean, Maryland will always have the past season where they were 3 plays away from being 7-0. They were, and everybody was saying it.
Yeah,
it was crushing, Mike. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. No, that past season was unreal to watch. It was just like the same thing over and over again, and then at the end, you're just like, all right, like Michigan. The way they lost that Michigan State game to end the year, I mean, that was just so like it was just a season wrapped in one. They had a massive lead. Yeah. They blow it. Then they lose late. The Sean O'Hare missed kick. It was just like, come on. Like,
It was everything. The fact that their last win was September 20th doesn't feel real because it feels like they at least were competitive. Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, they got blown out by Indiana.
Yeah.
The Rutgers game is when the train really fell off the tracks because the Rutgers game, you're like, well, they played Rutgers and Michigan State. They should win those 2 games and make a bowl game. So they really need to win the Rutgers game. If they don't win the Rutgers game, the season's kaputs. And then the game starts off so promising. I can't believe this is what we're discussing on this podcast. But yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. That Rutgers one too. I mean, the drive home too. It's just like, how could they not pull this one out? In that game, it was like the one thing that they couldn't do.
They rushed for 300 plus yards.
The one thing they couldn't do all year, they were doing, and they still lost.
It's what I was saying at the end of the season.
To open the game, do you remember that?
Of course, what I was saying. I mean, dude, this team effectively last year invented ways to lose games.
Yes. That 3-game stretch was unreal. The Washington collapse, so you have the massive blown lead. The Nebraska, you can do it, you can have your moment. You can't. Then UCLA, it's like, oh my God, they finally did it. Like they tied it up at the end, and then the defense can't hold on for 40 seconds. It's just like
the Dante Joyner pick 6 in the Nebraska game was so aura.
People say Maryland has so many NFL players drafted from here. It feels like year after year. This year is going to be an outlier. But year after year, they're getting drafted. But why aren't we winning games? It's just why aren't we winning games? It comes down to coaching. You can be a great recruiter, but if you can't win the games, then you deserve to be an assistant.
Hey, I have to agree with you. It's yeah, and I think the assistant thing with Locke specifically is like hard to know. Have you ever looked at the roster that he coached?
Who, Loxley?
The Locks when
Oh
Loxley
yeah,
won
yeah, yeah.
offensive assistant of the year. I mean, let's
It's an
just
unreal roster. Yeah,
let me look up Alabama football roster. It was 2018. Can we get a fact check on this? Because when did he start at Maryland?
2019 was his first year at Maryland, so it would have been 2018.
Yeah. So stop me when you hear a guy who's not good at football that he coached on the offensive side. I'll just list some of the big names from that season, and I'll just talk skill position players here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let me do some scrolling on the Alabama football roster website. All right. Jalen Hurts, Mac
Okay.
Jones, Tua Tagovailoa,
All right, so you have the best QB room of all time.
Kyle Edwards, Billy Edwards' brother. Bang. There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson Jr., Damian Harris. You know who the receivers are? Yeah. Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, Henry Ruggs,
Oh wow.
Jalen Waddle.
Wow. Interesting. I
Very
could
interesting.
that offense.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who their kicker was, but like tight. No, none of the tight ends jump off the page. I don't.
And you know what?
think.
You know what's crazy is that
Irv Smith
lost
Jr.
the national championship. That team didn't win at all. He couldn't
No.
win the game there at Alabama.
Mike Locksley can't win the big one. It was the only game they lost all season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't win the big one.
They could not win the big one.
Did not say that.
Let's not spend any time on football.
Wait, can I ask one football question? Mike, what's going on Twitter with that guy?
Oh, the fake recruits.
Maryland's already doing so badly in all of football. They got a troll on Twitter now getting them. Come on, Mike, what's going on with that? Actually, break that down for me. I'm so confused.
So, I saw online this weekend that Maryland football tweeted out. Let me pull up the exact tweet for this.
While Mike pulls that up, basically what was happening is there was a guy who was okay. Go for it.
Followers and prospects, please do not engage with the account at Coach Drew Green. This person is not employed or affiliated with our program. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So then later during the weekend, some guy tweeted it was about fake offers being given to recruits.
What a terrible thing to do for the kids.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's just really shitty.
It's really bad. I talked to a couple of them. Obviously, for some of them, it was their first offer they ever got. So really sad
That's such a
stuff
bummer.
there. And he's a bum online. I was DMing with him though. He wouldn't tell me anything. I was like, why are you doing this? What's your name? I asked, what's your name? He said Tom Cruise. So,
I heard his name's Shane Beamer now. Wow. By talking about him on this podcast, we've already given him too much time today. So let's move on.
Beamer probably would do that.
Well, we've given Tom Cruise too much time of day anyway by even bringing him up on this podcast. So let's talk about the highlight of the University of Maryland usually, which is the men's and women's lacrosse team. This week we'll mostly focus on the men's team. Women's team will open their season at Syracuse. After that game, we'll do more of a breakdown of their team going into the season. The men, let's break them down. They had their first game of the season actually canceled because of all the cold weather that's been going on in this area. They were supposed to head down to Richmond, but that game ended up getting postponed. They may make it up. I haven't heard any word on that. But the season will start as it usually does, or often has, with the second game of the year being against Loyola. So excited to see their season get started. Obviously, we're talking to Erksa about some of this stuff, but preseason number one team in the country, and that has a lot to do with the transfers they brought in. We'll get to that in a second. The biggest storyline with this team, obviously, is they've lost back-to-back years in the NCAA championship. That obviously weighs on a program, but I think it obviously makes them a lot hungrier, and they know what it takes to get there. They just have to get over the hump. So, big news, obviously, is who's wearing number one. That's Eric Spanos. He led the team last year with 36 goals and 19 assists. Inside Lacrosse estimates that Maryland returned about 58% of their production. The biggest question mark is obviously the goalie losing Logan McNaney. It's kind of just a weird thing the way all this obviously went down. McNaney got injured, takes a year off, and Brian Ruppel takes over that role. McNaney comes back. I assume Ruppel will be the guy who we see in net starting against Loyola, but I imagine for Ruppel, that's just kind of a weird mental thing. There's a guy that you know is better than you. He gets injured, you play a year, he then plays back over you again, and you then get the starting job. Interesting to see how he will start the year with all that stuff has gone down. He didn't start any games last year. So that is obviously the biggest question mark of this team. Logan McNaney kind of single-handedly carried them at points in the season last year and throughout his entire time at Maryland. Let's talk about the transfers, though. Two guys from Yale, Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons. Two great scorers. They combined for 56 goals last year and 31 assists. Those are two guys who I would expect with Erksa and Spanos to be leading the attack. And then the biggest transfer Maryland got is from Vermont, Henry Dodge. He led the country last year in face-off winning percentage. I mean, this team is set up. Obviously, they're the preseason number one team in the country. This team has the makings of a team that can win the national championship, obviously, and I would expect them to get a win to start the year against Loyola. But they have a tough schedule. They face of the top 5 teams in the country. They're obviously number one. They face 4 of them. So I mean, the schedule for this team is not going to be easy. I don't expect them to go undefeated like they did a couple of years ago. It's going to be a grind of a season, but I would expect them once again to be back Memorial Day. We'll see them playing championship weekend.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how it looks in goal this year because obviously McNaney's been such a huge part of their team's success and really that was the driving force behind what they did last year. Brendan, I have one question. You talked about the tough schedule. That 3-game slate, I think it is, where they play, I want to say it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but Syracuse, Princeton, Notre Dame. What would you kind of look at in those games as like a solid, like how would you feel in terms of where they stack up in the national picture depending on their record in those games?
I think that's a stretch where you got to try to go 2-1. I think trying to beat 3 of the top 5 teams in the country, in 3 consecutive weeks, obviously that's what you want out of a team that's going to win the national championship. But I think in the first month of the season before you get into Big Ten play, that's more of a game of find out about who we are as a team and then keep on going. I think the biggest thing last year was the 2 losses they had in Big Ten play. I would expect those would be 2 games they kind of have circled on their calendar of, losses they should not have had, which set them back at a time when they had already beaten Notre Dame, which was the number 1 team in the country. And then they were trying to, hold through, continue being undefeated and kind of drop those 2 games randomly. I think they feel confident probably that they can beat the teams you mentioned because they have done it over the past couple of years. They beat Syracuse twice, I believe, last year on the way to the NCAA championship. So, I think just going 2-1 throughout that time would be a success early in the season.
Lastly, for either of you, is there anything that you think that roster makeup wise, that suggests that this team has maybe a different element to it that could get it over the hump on championship weekend? Because we obviously know they've made it to the Final Four in several consecutive years, but that's not where the expectation is with this team. Every year when you enter in as the number 1 team in the country, it feels like you should win the Natty, or at least be playing in that game, and that hasn't happened in a couple of seasons. So is there anything that stands out to you? You pay attention to this team more than either of us. I've done some reading, but I guess I just want to get your opinion on what stands out to you about what could be different for them this year.
I think the one thing that Maryland was missing a little bit last year was an incredible guy in the face-off circle. Luke Weirman, who they had 2 years ago, which he really spawned them on that run to the national championship when they ended up getting blown out by Notre Dame. I mean, Luke Weirman single-handedly won them pretty much the game in the Final Four, the Duke game and the UVA game, the 2 games I think back to specifically in that season where they really, him winning so many faceoffs and sometimes taking it to score himself single-handedly propelled them to the national championship. They didn't quite have that last year, and that let them down in the national championship game. Henry Dodge from Vermont, who I said led the country in win percentage in faceoffs, that's going to be a huge asset. If he can lead the country again in faceoff percentage, I mean, this team is going to have, with the offensive talent they added, this team is going to be hard to stop offensively, and especially because they did return a good amount. We haven't even mentioned at all of some of those defensive starters. So I would look at the faceoff circle for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Brendan. I think that one thing in terms of the mental makeup, like when you've had so many years of kind of not being able to pull through, for example, I think that kind of can do a lot to a team. I wonder what Tillman will kind of do. A lot of returning talent, as you talked about earlier. Like this team obviously lost in the tournament last year. I think that those guys are going to be ready to kind of reestablish Maryland as the premier program in the country. So that's more of a mental side, but I think that is an element of what could happen this year.
I often always think about that, as you know, like you have to wonder, is that hurting them? Is that helping them? We'll have to see. But move on to 2 quick notes from the winner. We have wrestling lost to Rutgers over the weekend, and gymnastics pulled out a win against Illinois. Gymnastics has really been the team to watch for the Terps in the winter. I think they've kind of been the most surprising and probably best team. But this episode's about lacrosse. Let's do a terrific Terp about lacrosse, and then let's get out of here. This week's terrific Terp was actually also Olympian, just like last week's Terp, but he went to the Summer Olympics for a sport that is only played by women at UMD. Any guesses on what that could be?
Like currently or back when the terrific Terp was?
Currently, the sport at Maryland's only played by women.
Volleyball.
Incorrect. Mike, you got a guess?
Tennis.
No. Frederick Hewitt, who's this week's terrific Terp, he's in the University of Maryland Hall of Fame for playing football and lacrosse, but he actually represented the United States in 1984 for his field hockey skills. Believe it or not, guys. Hewitt went to Baltimore Polytech and played football, lacrosse, and ice hockey. Earlier in the episode, we talked about, as I was just saying, Henry Dodge, some talented face-off guys, and Hewitt was just that, actually, for the Terps all the way back in the late 1930s. He often took the draws and also played attack. He won All-American in close attack in his senior year in 1939. While at UMD, he was also the president of Sigma Nu fraternity. Must have been a pretty cool guy. After school, he stayed around and coached at UMB. He coached the freshman men's lacrosse team in 1940 and 1941. He had a nearly perfect record. He had just 1 loss in those 2 years. He continued to play lacrosse at the Mount Washington Lacrosse Club, and he also enlisted in the U.S. Army as an engineer. He served in the Army for 5 years until 1946, when he joined the National Guard, where he spent 15 more years. Impressively, during that time, at the age of 31, he was selected for the U.S. Olympic field hockey team. The U.S. finished 0-3 in group play. They did not advance. They finished tied for 10th. Not so great. They lost to Great Britain, Switzerland, and Afghanistan. After that, he worked in HVAC sales and contracting, and he was a very successful and well-known engineer in Baltimore. But for his skills in lacrosse at Maryland and for being on the 1948 Olympic team for the U.S., he is this week's terrific Terp.
Good stuff, B. I didn't know that field hockey was ever played by men's, but was it on the USA team or was it?
It's still played now by men.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. At the Olympics?
Yes, sir. It's actually huge. Field hockey is actually super popular not in the U.S. by men.
Huh. Interesting.
You don't remember Scott Tupper?
Scott Tupper, Sam?
Oh.
Yeah.
What's Scott Tupper up to nowadays, Mike?
He's a head coach somewhere. I don't know where. I had to give
a
a guess. I would say head coach at Penn.
I might go
All right, Sam's going to give the outro, and I'll look that up.
I might go with Kansas State for him on his spot.
Absolutely nailed it. It was Penn. Nicely done, Mike House. Get us out of here, Sam.
We appreciate you guys listening. You only come to Under the Shelf for knowledge like that. Thank you all for tuning in. Continue to listen to us despite the poor sports teams. We're getting to a point where things should get brighter, both in the weather and in College Park. We're looking forward to talking women's lacrosse next week. Baseball is on the horizon.
Yeah.
And we'll be here for
that gets Mike going for sure.
We'll be here every step of the way. So from us, have a good rest of your week and go under the shell.
You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast. After all these years, still the best in America.